Hi everyone, it's Thursday. You're watching CBC News BC. I'm Supneet Chawla. Let's get to your top stories this afternoon. We're going to start with tragic international news. An Air India passenger plane bound for London crashed Thursday morning. It was flying from India's northwestern city of Ahmedabad. The airline said the flight was carrying 242 passengers and crew, including one Canadian. Her family has identified her as a dentist from Mississauga, Ontario. Officials believe only at least one person survived. The Boeing Dreamliner crashed 5 minutes after takeoff. And one aviation expert says that this is the first time this type of Boeing airliner has had a fatal accident. And he also provided some more context on crashes after takeoffs.
It took place immediately following takeoff, which is one of the more common times when an accident occurs. It's more likely. It's probably because there's less time to respond to problems. We are very close to the ground. That's one factor. There's a lot of factors that have to come together at the same time. You need the right amount of thrust, you need the right amount of lift, you need to be able to have avoidance of terrain. When you're taking off, you're near to that. You're near to buildings, you're near to terrain, and so there can be a risk of collision if there's a problem.
He says more than 1 billion passengers have been flown on this type of plane before a fatality has happened, and that the airline technology is getting safer and safer. And Indian television news channels reported that the plane crashed on top of the dining area of a medical college, killing at least 5 medical students and injuring nearly 50. Exact casualties are still being investigated. Cooler temperatures and a chance of showers today could help firefighters battling the Dryden Creek wildfire near Squamish. That fire increased in size yesterday to 54 hectares following windy conditions in the afternoon. The flames have been pushing to the north, and last night, BC Parks asked visitors to leave Alice Lake Provincial Park. The fire isn't currently threatening the park, but smoke has reduced visibility in the area.
So the last couple nights we had, when we woke up in the morning, quite a lot of smoke was into town. But looks like we've had a breeze maybe overnight, as it's much clearer in town than it has been. Although with it blowing north and the highway being in such close proximity, we did have some visibility issues on the highway last night. So It's a very complex situation.
In the meantime, an evacuation alert remains in place for about 200 households in the Brackendale area. Police say they are seeking information on the Dryden Creek wildfire. They say that it's believed to be caused by a person around 4 o'clock on a bike trail at the end of Tantalus Road on June 9th. Investigators are asking anyone with information on this to reach out to Squamish RCMP. And Surrey police say more than 700 Hells Angels bikers are expected to ride from Coquitlam to Surrey today. It's for the celebration of life for a founding member. Police say Rick Cornelio was one of the original Hells Angels from Surrey, and he died at the age of 80. The Surrey Police Service is alerting of a significant motorcycle gang presence from today until Sunday. Police say there will be extra officers this weekend, especially at bars and restaurants, to prevent any gang-related incidents. And that's what we have so far. I'm Supneet Chawla. Stay with us. BC Today is coming up next.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Better weather is helping crews near Squamish as they try to contain and extinguish a wildfire burning close to Brackendale. We're going to get a live update from our reporter out there. We're now 1 year away from Vancouver hosting matches in the 2026 Men's World Cup, but there are plenty of questions about what it will cost and where visitors will stay. Plus, is a career in the trades right for someone like you or someone you know? Amid rising unemployment for young people, we'll chat with an expert and take your calls. I'm Dan Burritt in for Michelle Elliott today. Welcome to BC Today. Thanks for joining us on TV, radio, and on our live stream. You're welcome to call us now on our main topic. What do you think of Vancouver hosting matches for next year's Men's World Cup? What about costs, accommodation, all that sort of stuff? Our number is 604-669-3733. Across BC, it's 1-800-825-5950 or hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Please be pulled over or hands-free if you're driving, or email us, bctoday@cbc.ca. But first, to the Sea to Sky region. This morning, Squamish RCMP reported the wildfire just north of the city, close to Brackendale, is now 54 hectares large. Investigators suspect the fire was caused by people, but it's still unclear how exactly it began. Officials say cooler temperatures are offering some relief, but residents Kaja Unger and Oliver Roy tell CBC News they're still taking precautions.
I think they'll get it under control soon. That's my feeling. I know a lot of people are worried, but I don't know.
It's looking better. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's looking better, but who knows? Like one bad gust of wind, one wrong thing to go wrong, right? And then all of a sudden, 50 hectares turns into like 100.
Our cars are packed and we're ready to go. If anything, if we get the you got to leave, we're leaving.
The CBC's Meera Bains joins us now near the fire on the Sea to Sky. Meera, what's the latest where you are?
Well, Dan, you mentioned that there are cooler temperatures here in the Brackendale area. And yes, it is much cooler here. Temperatures are expected to get up to 15 degrees. So that's much better for fire conditions and for firefighters who are battling the flames in the area. But I should mention that the winds are expected to pick up, that they are supposed to get up to about 40 kilometers per hour, but they are blowing away from the community. And so that's another good sign. But there has been growth on the northern flank of the fire. This fire is now at about 54 hectares. So it's grown 10 times since Monday, and that has been pretty significant. The BC Wildfire Service is keeping about 5 helicopters still working on this fire. You might see them above my shoulder coming by just in the next little while, but they are working on this fire. There is smoke in the area, but definitely a much cloudier day, and rain is expected in the forecast tomorrow. Right now, it's about 35% chance.
All right. And for those watching on CBC television and on YouTube and our other live streams, you could see the haze behind Meera. Meera, we understand a nearby provincial park has also been ordered evacuated. What can you tell us about that?
Sure, Dan. But before that, I should just mention to you that there's about 200 properties still on evacuation alert in the Brackendale area. But the BC Wildfire Service, they have closed the road to Alice Lake Provincial Park. And for those watching on television, that's the road right behind me. And so that has been closed. It's been ordered to evacuate. The BC Wildfire Service wants to leave some of the access roads available for equipment crews and firefighters to use just in case the fire changes direction. So that is still a concern. So they just want to keep everything safe. They say that no park facilities are in danger yet because of this fire. But we did spoke to that couple earlier today, and they said that they saw a lot of people who had been camping in the area leave the area and move north towards Whistler, towards Pemberton. But they mentioned that the Walmart here in Squamish is offering up its parking lot for RVs.
Well, that is good to hear. As we heard earlier in the day, and you'll hear some noise because it's still a busy highway where Meera is on the Sea to Sky, the RCMP announced it is looking into this blaze, trying to figure out what may have caused it. They do believe it was human caused. Are they asking anything specific of the public?
They're asking anyone who may have been in the area near the end of Tantalus Road on Monday afternoon around 4 o'clock when it's believed the fire started to come forward with any information to them. They've been hearing all sorts of rumors in the community. They were asked at a news conference yesterday about a fellow who actually tried to use a fire extinguisher and extinguish the fire himself at one point. But, you know, they are issuing this public plea. They are holding a news conference at 1:30 today, so we're hoping to get an update from police then.
Okay, we will watch for that on all our platforms. The CBC's Meera Bains on site at the Squamish wildfire near Brackendale. Meera Bains, thanks very much. It is 12:11. You are watching and listening to BC Today. Granville Island is a beacon for visitors and locals on the Lower Mainland, but it is facing financial uncertainty. The area with its shops and restaurants and public market hasn't changed much since it was created in the 1970s. Granville Island General Manager Tom Lancaster estimates it needs up to $300 million in infrastructure upgrades.
If people in Vancouver want to see a revitalized Granville Island, something that inspires them the way that it did in the 1980s and 1990s, that's the change that we need. That's the investment we need. If we want to kick it down the road, this problem will exist for the next couple of years. It will be on fire eventually because our financial system just simply doesn't work for us. But problems can be pushed into the future over and over until it's no longer really that desirable. We're not there yet, but we're close.
Lancaster says he hopes that by sounding the alarm now, Granville Island can help bring stakeholders together to create a new era for the island that's actually a peninsula. One option being floated is to build housing on it so higher levels of government may be more likely to invest. The island is owned by the federal government and managed by the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. We are now 1 year until kickoff in the 2026 Men's World Cup. Vancouver is one of 16 cities in Canada, the U.S., and Mexico hosting the games. 7 matches will be played at BC Place in downtown Vancouver, including 2 of Canada's group stage matches. With such a massive tournament comes a lot of fans, a lot of excitement, and costs, which are not yet clear. How prepared is Vancouver for World Cup matches? What are the benefits and drawbacks of hosting matches here? Give us a call now, 1-800-825-5950. In Metro Vancouver, the number is 604-669-3733, pound 690 on your cell phone. You can email BC Today at cbc.ca, and some of you already have. Keep them coming. Joining us now is Vancouver City Councillor Mike Klassen with the Majority ABC Party. Councillor, we appreciate you being here. There was a lot of hype outside BC Place yesterday. The mayor, other officials, the province unveiling the World Cup countdown clock. How are you feeling about the city's readiness a year out now?
Thanks very much, Dan. And with the 1 year countdown, first of all, I'm really glad that we actually acknowledged that we are a year away. And I'll explain why in a moment. And I am extraordinarily excited about what I think is going to be arguably the biggest sporting event the city has ever hosted. And I think the city will be ready when all of the world comes to watch FIFA soccer in our city.
Why do you say you're glad that they're acknowledging it now?
I have some experiences from the 2010 games burned into my memory. I recall that we watched very closely in my time there as a sort of a political observer, how we were kind of ignoring the countdown. And so the 12 months to the 2010 games happened, the 6 months, the 3 months, the 1 month, and there was very little acknowledgement that the game were coming. And I think that led to, at the time, and I remember this well, people being very frustrated. They felt that the games were more of an inconvenience than an opportunity. And it was because we set about creating a guide where all the free events are happening. The public quickly realized that there was a lot for them to, and I'm sorry, when I say the public, I mean people in the city and in the region realized that the 2010 games were not just about trying to get up onto the ski hills and watch snowboarding or luge or events, but to actually engage with the world as they all arrived on our shores. And I feel as though that we're better prepared for something like that to happen next year.
Councillor, and I do remember covering the games and the lead up to that. Probably worth acknowledging, though, that in that time, we were also just climbing out of the Great Recession, and there were a lot of concerns about affordability and other issues that we're dealing with now. So it wasn't as though it was a panacea heading into those games that people forgot. There were a lot of other things to focus on.
I would say so, but then again, there was an enormous amount of work that was done to try and prepare for those games, and in some ways, it sheltered us from I think the harder impacts of the economic blows that were happening at the time, because we had invested so much into infrastructure at the time, and as well as kind of generating all the economy around the games itself. But we are, as you point out, going into another a time of political and economic uncertainty. So that is certainly going to be in the backdrop of the FIFA World Cup coming to our city. But again, I think we have to be ready for all inevitabilities in terms of what happens.
All right. Just before we get to Randy, our caller, Councillor, I want to ask you a regular question we get about these events: costs. The tourism minister says the province will release a fully costed platform later this month. Last year, organizers pegged it at almost $600 million. What are you expecting?
So right now we have no material changes to our cost projections for the city. The budget range is pegged at between $230 and $260 million. And the city's direct costs for hosting the World Cup include security and transportation, the FIFA Fan Fest, which I'd love to talk more about out of the PNE, and milestone events like the one we saw yesterday, the 1 year to go.
Okay. Let's go to Randy in calling from Vancouver. Randy, what do you think of Vancouver hosting World Cup matches?
Hi, thanks for taking my call, and hello to your guest. I guess I think it's okay having FIFA come to Vancouver. I grew up playing soccer in Vancouver, and I've coached soccer, and my child plays competitive soccer. And one concern I've had this is over a decade in Vancouver, is that we have run out of fields for kids to play soccer. And I'm talking kids to train 4 years old up to 17 years old. The fields are not getting maintained correctly. We've run out of field space to the point that we can't host in the city of Vancouver a youth soccer tournament. There are no fields to do that. We have maybe 2 fields side by side. You look out to South Surrey, they could have 8 fields side by side.
Right.
And my point is, if the city's going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars hosting a tournament for soccer, world class, perhaps we should look at the Canada Soccer's long-term development pathway for youth and start building a few fields a year in the city of Vancouver, which would not cost $600 million.
Randy, appreciate your call. Councillor Mike Klassen, what do you think of what Randy says?
Thanks very much, Randy. I really appreciate what you're saying there. I hear this continuously, that our amenities, our sporting amenities are lacking. I'll point out the fact that a city like Surrey has more space, but we could make best use of our space here, and it's something that we have been talking a lot about. Yesterday, during the 1 year countdown event, we had a whole bunch of kids out playing on an AstroTurf outside of BC Place, and Christine Sinclair was there, and Bobby Lenarduzzi, and the real sense is that we're creating the next generation of soccer players and athletes in our city, and this will be an inspiration for that. So we absolutely need to be thinking about kids and making sure that we have those sport fields and amenities that are available. The question is how we pay for it, how we plan for it, and that's something I know our council's been talking a lot about, especially around the issues revolving around the park board. But ultimately, we need to make sure we make best use of our space and make the improvements and the upkeep. I hear you on that one too. I know that even just the visitation by Canada geese on fields can sometimes be devastating. So we really need to take care of those facilities.
Let's go to Cody in Trail. Cody, what do you make of Vancouver hosting World Cup matches?
Good afternoon, Dan, and good afternoon, Councillor Klassen. Pleasure to talk with you both, gentlemen. I feel that Vancouver is, I feel that they're not quite ready to host a tournament of this magnitude, and I understand, and I feel your sentiment, Councillor Klassen, that you're saying about the kids, but with the tariffs and everything, you're not going to have you're not going to have people from the U.S. coming to Canada to watch let's say, the United States is playing Canada. Now, you're not going to have many Americans coming up here because due to the tariffs, and you're not going to have many Canadians going down to the States to watch Canada's games, and you're going to have a ton of Mexicans. And I feel that with the homelessness problem, like, why is the city of Vancouver, and maybe you can touch on this, Councillor Klassen, why is Vancouver getting a tournament of this magnitude when we have a rampant homelessness problem and people that and I feel that with an event of this magnitude, you're going to need a whole bunch of security, so there's not some clown ramming people with their vehicle.
Cody, I'm going to jump in here. Appreciate the call. Lots in there. Always appreciate hearing you from Trail. Councillor, a lot in there. Security, costs, homelessness. What do you think of what he said?
All points well taken. So the city has always had challenges around homelessness, and I think that won't necessarily go away as a result of us hosting FIFA. But we have been able to host global events like this in the past successfully, and I think that the two can essentially coexist, but I think we want to make sure that people feel safe and secure, and that the people, the residents of the city, also feel as though that they can be a part of this as well. And I would also point to his points about the relationship with our American neighbors. It's actually quite interesting. I was at the Board of Trade lunch where the U.S. consul attended and spoke, and he and his staff were there as well, have been really trying to work closely with local officials such as Destination Vancouver and the Board of Trade to make sure that border is not a barrier for travelers who want to go to games in Seattle and go to games in Vancouver, whether they be Americans or Canadians. So I think that work is happening right now, and there is I think a sincere effort and an outreach by the U.S. consul to try and see both the Seattle and Vancouver games as a part of an overall region, a Cascadia focus, if you'd like. And so it'll be very interesting to see what happens, but anything can happen in with this particular administration. So let's just hope that it's really positive by next year.
Councillor, do you think the city and the province, other officials, are we going to make money on this? Are we going to lose money, break even? Where do you see this going?
I think that we have to be aware that there are always uncertainties around costs, but what we are looking at, if experience is our guide, is a very significant amount of economic activity will be generated by this. And some of it will happen in the moment. with visitors and guests through here. There's also going to be those who are going to come back, those who are going to bring their families back, and then the potential for generating economic opportunities. People who want to start businesses here see that this is a great place to start a business or do global trade with. I sort of picture the people who are flying in to see teams from around the world are probably people who are successful. They can obviously afford to travel and come and pay for FIFA tickets. So they're probably people who have business and important connections in their home countries, and they should be able to take away, hey, Vancouver would be a great place for us to come back and try and see if we can work together. I think it's that sort of over the next few years, we're going to see the real potential for what's estimated to be about $1 billion of economic activity that will be generated by these games.
All right. Councillor Mike Klassen with the City of Vancouver, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Dan.
And we want to hear from more of you. How prepared do you think Vancouver is to host World Cup matches? What are the benefits and drawbacks of hosting games here in the city? You heard Councillor Mike Klassen make his pitch. Do you have any concerns about Vancouver taking part in the festivities? Whether it's security or accommodation or just how much it will cost. 1-800-825-5950 is our number. 604-669-3733, pound 690 on your cell phone. You can email bctoday@cbc.ca. And joining us in studio are two of CBC's biggest footy enthusiasts, Laurence Watt, the director of the Early Edition, and Joseph Otoo, a journalist with CBC Kelowna. Gentlemen, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. So this is touted as the biggest sporting event in the world, the Men's World Cup. Give us a sense of the excitement a year out. Let's start with you, Joseph.
Very excited. So I live in Kelowna where, the last World Cup, you had people, you saw the jerseys on the street. You had bars that would normally be playing hockey games. Now people are flooding in to watch Alphonso Davies and Team Canada line up to see these games. Now I'm coaching soccer. My little kid is playing, and you have the excitement of these kids that see Canada as a good team, which growing up, I mean, what did you think of Canada?
Oh, you didn't hear much about it. All we heard about England, which was terrible because we were always losing in penalties. So, I think somehow we kind of made
Check your history books, folks. Yeah. But and to its credit, that was the men's team.
Yes.
It was really our women's team that has pioneered winning, success, and Burnaby's own Christine Sinclair. Without them, I don't think you see the success that the men's team have.
Oh, the women have been trailblazing for a long time.
Yeah.
And now the men's program is catching up. The hype is there a year out.
Let's talk about logistics. Laurence, you've got some answers about that. We're expecting two games for Canada, at least in the group stage here. Is that right?
That's correct. So Canada's definitely going to play in 2 games here. Of course, there's still many teams that are yet to qualify for the World Cup, and we won't yet know for a while which teams will be coming to play in Vancouver. In total, we're going to get 7 games, and those include 2 knockout games. That's like the round of 32 and the round of 16. So we'll find out more information about that later this year.
In terms of accommodation, well, this is something we heard from yesterday from our colleague Renee Lucas. They're expecting 350,000 people to come here. And we have, at last check, 13,000 hotel rooms.
That's correct.
So
yes.
How's the math working out there?
It's not working. So you're absolutely right. There's 13,000 rooms across around 78 hotels in Vancouver. If you expand that out to the entirety of the Lower Mainland, there are more spaces, of course. I spoke about to this with Sarah Kirby-Young last year, and she said the city was looking into expanding into other options. So, for instance, relaxing rules around Airbnbs, bringing in a flotel, utilizing cruise ships, and of course, there'll be many of us, hoping family and friends come to stay on our couches. And there'll be many people who have no idea what's going on, and they're going to get out of Vancouver because the traffic is questionable at best when there isn't a tournament going on. So, there's it's troublesome at the moment, but work is underway according to the city to address that problem.
Now, Joseph, for people who aren't big sports fans, and just before we get to the break, can you put into context how big this event is?
Okay, the last World Cup, we had a 1.5 million people, billion people around the globe watching the World Cup final. The Super Bowl had 127 million people watching the final in 2025. So what is that, 10, 11 times bigger for that one game, that one match? And Laurence, he said it well, people who aren't fans, even that one game, it's a spectacle. It's a huge event. So that kind of puts it into context for the global audience.
All right. We're going to get to more of our calls and with two of our guests in just a moment. Time to take a news break with Robert Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. A Victoria police sergeant who fired an anti-riot weapon that killed a woman Christmas Day 2019 has been handed a 7-day suspension without pay. Adjudicator Wally Opal ruled last month that Ron Kirkwood's use of a so-called Arwen gun on Lisa Rausch was reckless and unnecessary. The former judge appointed by BC's Police Complaints Commission handed down his ruling this morning, saying Kirkwood had an exemplary record and was a good officer who had a bad moment. Police say a deadly shooting yesterday in Surrey does not appear to be linked to any ongoing cases. A man was found badly injured in the Fleetwood area and didn't survive. There's no word on a possible motive. It's Surrey's third homicide of the year. And a wildfire that prompted a local state of emergency in Squamish earlier this week has nearly tripled in size since yesterday to around 55 hectares. It has also forced the closure of Alice Lake Provincial Park. Mounties are investigating to determine how the blaze was started after the BC Wildfire Service said it's likely human caused. And now the forecast on the north coast, clearing this afternoon with a high of 13, highs around 12 with widespread smoke and showers in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, local smoke with showers and a risk of thunderstorms. Highs around 26 and smoky with some sunshine and a chance of thunderstorms as well in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, showers and thunderstorms with a high of 27. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and the Fraser Valley, mainly cloudy this afternoon, a bit windy in some areas with highs around 17. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Robert Zimmerman, thank you very much. Robert Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. We're talking the Men's World Cup. Vancouver will be one of 16 cities hosting it across North America next year, with 7 matches set to be played at BC Place. We're asking you, what do you make of this tournament? What about costs? What about accommodation? Are you excited that the Men's World Cup is coming here? Vancouver was one of the hosts of the Women's World Cup in 2015. Our number is 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733 in Metro Vancouver. Email us, bctoday@cbc.ca. And I'm going to read one of those now. Colin writes, personally, I don't believe the amounts of money they claim the matches are going to generate. Yes, we certainly will probably hear, Colin, in the months and year to come around what are these costs. And Randy says, yes, it is an honor and a blessing to be able to host some games. Let's see whether the events can take place without taxpayers enduring the costs for security and cleanup. Before we get to Mitchell in Chilliwack, Joseph, I wanted to ask about another tournament upcoming at BC Place that involves Canada. Is it a bit of a setup?
Yeah, you could call it that. Yeah. You know, it'll give fans, especially Canadian fans, a chance to watch the men's team in competitive matches. So the Gold Cup will begin. Canada will play Honduras, BC Place on Tuesday. So it's North America, Central America, and Caribbean nations. A chance to watch them in a championship. Mexico is the defending champions, and this is a great chance to watch Canada as their team develops. Right now, they don't have star player Alphonso Davies.
Yes.
So watching them play and evolving without Alphonso will be a really good opportunity to see Canada in those matches.
All right, good to know. Mitchell is in Chilliwack. Mitchell, what do you make of Vancouver hosting World Cup matches?
Hi, I'm a bit concerned about the ethical implications of FIFA. Its history, when it comes to cities hosting it, tends to be pretty spotty, especially when it comes to unhoused people. They are often pushed out of in an illusion that the city is being cleaned up, and often pushing them out to other cities where services they might rely on are no longer within their reach. So I'm a little concerned with that.
We have heard those concerns before. On the pure costing of paying to take part, what do you think of that?
I think a lot of those costs. I mean, as long as construction projects are kept to a minimum, I don't see an issue with cost.
Okay. And we know that we already have the infrastructure essentially built because we're only using BC Place. There may be some plazas and some other networks and events that FIFA is planning. Let's go to Jason in Vancouver on line 1. Jason, what do you think of FIFA coming to town? Hello, Jason, are you there?
Oh yeah.
Fire away.
I was thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I was just wondering, how much are the taxpayers, and especially homeowners, going to be footing for this 2-month tournament? We've got so many other issues in this city to deal with unaffordability, and even yesterday when they asked about the cost of this tournament, they sideswiped it, and he evaded pretty much the question.
That would be the mayor?
That's right.
Yes, I recall that. And so we did hear from Councillor Mike Klassen saying they're working between $230 and $260 million. The mayor was asked specifically around the FIFA contract that Vancouver has signed. He said they can't release it publicly yet, citing confidentiality, but, quote, we've had eyes on it. Interestingly, though, Seattle, Toronto have been able to release this. Laurence, is there any movement on this? Because we know that, I mean, FIFA does demand a lot when it comes to these kinds of tournaments, right? They have carte blanche, essentially.
Exactly. And, it's a shame we still don't have Councillor Klassen with us, who could perhaps pose that question to. But I think what this point does get to is that, some people see this as a glorious spectacle, and there are others who consider it to be a horrific waste of money. And like we've heard about concerns around property tax increases and the demands from FIFA. There was a story that came out this week from CBC talking about the state of emergency care rooms in this province, with concerns around the rooms being understaffed and overcrowded. We hear all the time, as we should, about the homelessness issue in this city. And, the difference in this tournament compared to, let's say, the 2010 Olympics is that you had a lot of investment in these long-term infrastructure projects. Think about improvements to the Sea to Sky Highway. We're not seeing that with this tournament. And so there's concern around all this money that we're spending. What are we going to get from it when it's September 2026? And, I think that, like I said, grand spectacle, horrific waste of money. We're going to be having these discussions long into probably 2027 and beyond.
All right. And we should note, when it comes to a property tax increase, there's no, we haven't had anything confirmed by the city. But it is worth noting, and thanks to our producers for this, last fall, the city host of the FIFA World Cup in 2026 asked for a modest temporary increase to the municipal and regional district tax on short-term accommodations to help with the costs of hosting those matches. And we heard from Spencer Chandler-Herbert, the tourism minister, yesterday, saying that perhaps they would have more people, and perhaps the city would issue more licenses around allowing them people to do more Airbnbs and stay in others' homes. So it'll be interesting to see who comes in for that. For either of you, any idea what teams or what games we're going to get besides Canada?
Yeah, well, we do know that some teams have qualified so far already. There's still, as Joe mentioned, 35 teams still yet to be announced. But we know that, for instance, like Brazil has already qualified, like Ecuador, Australia, and a few other countries as well. Later this year, we're going to find out exactly who the rest of the teams are, and then we're going to get more information on which teams will play here. And, I think a lot of people, like you hear about Argentina and Brazil, but when you think about Metro Vancouver, like there's a huge Iranian community here, there's a huge Croatian community here, and Ukrainian community. All it takes is for one of those teams to come, and you will see thousands of people flocking to Vancouver.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. And let's not forget, for those of you watching, yes, I am wearing an orange Echte Hollands, and perhaps we'll have some. The Three Lions guy is shaking his head at the One Lion guy. I know. That's okay. Nobody's perfect. Joseph, you mentioned you're coaching your child's soccer team. You said that you had a sense of the excitement. Is that with the kids as well as the other parents and guardians?
Yeah, see, I think that's where it really matters, is that the kids are getting excited. And of course, you've handled that really well, Laurence, about the cost that it's going to have, but what it's going to mean for the next generation of players. Because, 4 years ago, you're watching Canada at the World Cup for the first time in 36 years. A whole generation of us never dreamed that Canada is now hosting World Cup. 3 different hosts. You have 48-team World Cup for the first time. The opportunity to get out of the first round for Canada is going to be greater. And then what will that mean for the hype level in this city, around the province, and people coming from different places in the province, from the north, from the interior, crashing on couches, stay where they can, to be a part of the hype. Calling in favors.
All right, and lastly to both of you quickly, besides Canada, obviously, do you have another team that you're rooting for?
Yeah, I'm Ghanaian.
Nice.
So my home nation, I dread this idea that Canada and Ghana will end up in the same group, and then I'll have to decide. But I don't know how you feel. Laurence.
Yeah, well, obviously born and raised in the UK, so it's like choosing between my childhood or my chosen home. I'll be cheering for both at different stages, but if they play against each other, then, well, I guess I'll implode. I don't know. But
Or explode.
Or explode. We'll get to that later. But in the meantime, you know, going off what Joe was saying, Canada has a true underdog story. Pretty passionate about that.
Yeah. All right. Laurence Watt, Joseph Otoo, journalist at CBC BC, resident soccer, football enthusiast. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you,
Dan.
And thank you for joining us on CBC Radio 1, CBC Television, and live streaming on the CBC website and on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. There are lots more on the day's top stories on the afternoon shows in your region. Here in Metro Vancouver, here's what's coming up on the coast with Amy Bell.
Hi, Dan. It's Amy Bell sitting in once again for Gloria Makarenko here on the coast. And coming up on our show this afternoon, as we know, the youth unemployment rate has spiked in Canada. But our money columnist, Mark Ting, will be here with some tips on skills that will set someone apart if they're entering a weak job market. And it's Thursday. That means our Soapbox Social panel will be here for their hot take on the news this week, including BC Ferry's decision to buy new vessels from a Chinese shipbuilder instead of a BC company. On the coast starting at 3. I hope you can join us.
Amy Bell, thank you very much. And you can hear On the Coast on CBC Radio 1 in Metro Vancouver and anywhere you are on the CBC News app. As we head into the summer, we're talking about jobs and career opportunities. Members of Gen Z, people born roughly between the mid-1990s and early 2010s, are facing the highest unemployment rate Canada has seen in decades. So as we face some uncertainty, is a career in the trades a sustainable option for you? Give us a call now. Are you considering or pursuing a career in trades? Are you in a trade? And what would be your sales pitch to somebody who is considering it? What are the challenges and opportunities? Any advice for someone starting out? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950. In Metro Vancouver, the number is 604-669-3733, pound 690 on your cell. Please be pulled over or hands-free when you do that. Email us, as many of you have, bctoday@cbc.ca. And we do have a caller already. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Joining us now is Supneet Chawla, founder and CEO of ACE Community College in Surrey. She recently won a Women in Business Award from the Surrey Board of Trade. Supneet, so nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on this award. What does that mean to you to be recognized like that?
I've been in trades 20 years, and every time I'm on the stage, the first thing I feel is so thankful that I chose trades as my path. Mm-hmm. Very, very thankful. Being in Women in Trades, part of my beingness is making sure that I could be a reason, not even a reason, maybe a little example for a female to join me in that club of men.
And it is certainly is a dominated club, or at least it has been. Remind us, what trade did you get into and when?
Electrical. I'm in electrical trade for a good 20 years.
Yeah.
And I remember working on a job site with no bathrooms for females, fast forwarding 20 years. We have so many women in trades, and I feel the day I get an award, I feel that, yes, I have made a little bit of change to the point where a female is recognized being somebody in trades, so they can join the club.
How did you come to start ACE Community College? Where does that begin?
ACE is the brainchild that happened when I moved to Canada. I'm an immigrant woman. I moved here 25 years ago. For me to get my certification to Canada or in BC, I had to go through like huge cycle of exams with no help. So when I got my certification, I made it a mandate that I would not want any other immigrant to go through this pain, for lack of a better word. I started ACE with 4 students in my parents' garage. Electrical is what I'm trained to do, and that's how ACE came into play.
Your parents' garage?
In my parents' garage.
Where in Metro Vancouver was that, or where
Surrey,
in BC? In Surrey.
So 4 students and me in that table in a parent's garage to teaching, I think in the last 20 years. I'm still the electrical instructor for the college. We have a staff of about 50 people, but I still teach for the college every Saturday and teaching over 10,000 apprentices. So 20,000 is what the college has taught over the last 20-year period. I have personally taught about 5,000 to 7,000 people who go through the cycle of getting their certifications, including the Red Seal exam certification. Those are my students, and people who are in the trade who are getting their foreman license or they're getting the electrical contractor's license. Going through this cycle, one thing has not changed is the standard or the norm where I am still a female. Maybe there will be a guy who would come after. I might be the receptionist of the college, even when I show up in classes.
Really?
After 20 years.
Still after 20 years.
Oh yeah, they still see that, there might be an old grumpy guy with glasses on who'll come and stay in the class and tell me how to become a better electrician.
Classic mansplaining going on right there. Let's go to Corey in Kimberley. Corey's on the line. Thanks for waiting, Corey. What's your experience with the trades?
My experience with the trades has been quite positive overall. I'm 50 now. I did my carpenter apprenticeship when I was 20. But one thing I want to say to people, the young people that are starting into their apprenticeships, and this is by no means is it I'm trying to be derogatory to the carpenters, but it's more of a question like, why do carpenters get paid less?
Oh, okay. Is that generally on scale? That's your
plumbers are all getting paid much more than a journeyman carpenter.
Okay.
So I'll just leave it at that. It's just something for things to think about. Okay. But trades are so important because we're building, all of us, whether it's plumbers, electricians, carpenters, metal workers, everybody, we're building the infrastructure of our country. And it's so important. Like, sorry, I'm parked in my truck.
That's okay, Corey. You know what? Why don't we? I'm gonna put your question to our.
I have one thing that I need to add.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. So one thing that I found in my younger years, again, like I did my carpentry apprenticeship around 2000, and I did it at the Okanagan College. There was, and just bear with me here for a sec. So there was a couple of dudes that were First Nations, and the program dictates that you need to acquire a certain amount of hours for your course. And if you're not there for your full time, then you don't pass. Now, being a I'm First Nations. I am First Nations, but I'm not.
Corey, I'm good. We're going to wrap it up there. I appreciate your call. I know it was. I have those brain freezes on occasion as well. Appreciate that. Supneet Chawla, is there a trade? Well, maybe just to his question is, why is it that he says that carpenters are not being paid as much as other trades? Do you know if that's true?
maybe he doesn't have the Red Seal ticket. Anybody who is qualified with the experience, maybe the certification is something that's lacking. To get to that point. I don't believe that carpenters get paid any less, especially the construction industry is booming at least in our province. All the certified journey people make quite decent salaries.
Okay, that's good to know. Let's go to Victor in Brackendale. Victor, what are your experiences with the trades?
Hello?
Yes, hello, Victor, you're on. What are your experiences with the trades?
Well, with the trades, we got a lot of kids going to university, and the majority of them want to be lawyers. I don't know why. And we've got an
I've spoken to a lot of young people. Okay.
But,
I agree.
Trades, I'm a tradesman. Get into trades, get your ticket, and it's a good paying job, and it's not boring. And we got to get more young people in the trades.
Okay.
What would be family wants their kid to go to university to brag about it, but I mean, go to trades.
Well, we do know, Victor, appreciate the call, that things have shifted, and I've had these conversations with all sorts of people around. Depending on what you're going to do, if they wanted to go and pursue an arts degree or finance or law, that those are still tough to get into, but perhaps we haven't put enough emphasis on those trades and the sales pitch, Supneet, to younger people to say, if you like working with your hands, if you want to be creative and a problem solver, we've got something and you can make a great living at it.
Absolutely. I believe BC overall has a great apprenticeship program. Along with it, it used to be one of the choices. With the current market we are in, that's, I believe, is the only choice. There is trades brings real jobs, and they are more sustainable. There is no AI that can take over an electrician's or a plumber's or an HVAC technician's role. And eventually, this gives a person a financial freedom, really good work-life balance. You get to your job site at 7 a.m. and you're home by 3:30. And eventually help that person in building BC's economy, because BC's economy needs more trade workers, more construction workers.
Do we have enough spots, though, to train people? Do we have enough classrooms and enough apprenticeship programs in order to support the people that do want to do it, in your experience?
I don't think so, we do. The amount of people who are getting into trades compared to, a lot of people will wait for their level trainings if they are level 1 apprentice. In the past, for them to go to level 2, there was a 1, 2, 3 year wait window. So this definitely is a roadblock. There are not enough schools who would provide apprenticeship training. That's where ACE College comes into play, which is we have so many more short-term programs with full support to the students. Any training we do is about 6 weeks to 8 weeks long. That every employer, we have about 500 plus employer partners that ACE College have gone through rigorous screening process before they become our employer partners. For every student we teach, by the end of the program, we do an employer event where employers come to our campus, meet with the student, with a one-on-one speed dating kind of model. And by the time the person is graduated on the Friday, by Monday, he's starting in the trade for the employer.
That is a quick turnaround.
This really helps the employer get a student which he knows is well-trained, has been on tools, so there is no training period for him. That can be a job-ready employee for him. And in return, for a student, what the benefit is that the student knows that he's getting into a real job for long term.
Let's go to more calls, and they're stacking up. Andre in Victoria, what do you make of the trades?
Hi, I'm a carpenter. I've been a carpenter for 30 years, and I would actually discourage anybody from going into at least carpentry. I think the sub-trades are a bit different. Carpenters do make less by comparison to electricians, plumbers, boilermakers, welders, sheet metal. And really, for me, what I've seen over my career is that wages have not kept up with inflation like everything else, but I think we've slipped a bit more. And we haven't had any basic improvements like you'd get in other careers if you went, say, and became an engineer or got a degree. You don't get any vacation time. You don't get paid sick leave. You're bouncing around from job site to job site. It's a kind of a feast or famine kind of industry. And there's a reason why you don't see a lot of people, they're trying to do this trade drive, is because you get young guys on, or gals, on the construction site, and they work a couple days or a couple weeks, and they go, no, this isn't worth it. Why would I make $25 an hour when I can make $20 at an easier job? So
okay, Andre,
until things start to change, I don't think you're gonna constantly have a problem.
Andre,
and one more point. Sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
Also, I think a big part of what has driven this down, at least for carpenters, is the temporary foreign worker program.
Right.
That has really stifled the wages.
Okay. Andre, appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Going to try and get to the other calls. Dan in Kelowna, what's your experience with trades?
Hey, I've been at it for 23 years. I run my own business now. I'm actually, on my dad's side of the family, I'm one of two people out of about 30 grandkids that didn't get a university degree, but I probably make more money than the rest of them.
And you remind them, don't you?
No, I try not to.
Oh, okay.
But I want to echo what that last guy was saying. I actually became a red steel carpenter, and to be honest, I have never in 23 years been asked whether or not I have a red seal. And the temporary foreign worker program in Canada has just been one of the tools the government has used to just gut the industry. You actually get more workers' rights working at McDonald's than you do in construction. If you go into the workers' rights legislation, the construction industry has an exclusion for almost everything. Overtime pay, notice for being fired, reasons for being fired not even required. Until our government and the schools that are providing training start working together to go, look, we have to fix this massive problem in the industry and what we've done to it over the last 35 years. Canadians, especially, are not going to be getting into the trades. If you're going to get into the trades, get into a technical trade, an electrician, a pipe fitter, a plumber. Great industries. I love the industry, but the challenge is, like the last caller said, the industry just continues to be gutted for massive government projects, and they continue to make rules and set exceptions. So that
Dan, we're going to have to cut it off. I apologize. We're right out of time. Supneet Chawla, we really appreciate your time and your expertise. And again, if you have a 5-second pitch, what would you say to somebody who might get into a trade? What do you say?
I would say that trades is definitely the future. And it's now. It's now or never. So